Welcome to More Than a Paycheck, the podcast for high achievers who feel trapped in their job but know something has to change. If your bad manager and toxic work environment have you stressed and working crazy hours, and you want an easier solution than finding a new job, you're in the right place. Let's do this. Hey y'all, part 2 today of yearly reviews. Like always, if you haven't listened to part 1, go start there. It's pretty crucial and important. There's some good stuff in there. Remember, we talked about other people's perception of you. It's really a reflection of them. Okay, go listen to that episode. It's going to tell you a whole lot. But we also talk a lot about in that episode, which is important to build on what we're going to talk about today. Your response to their feedback of you is awareness of you. So your response to them is awareness of you. Today, we're going to dive into your feedback about other people. Okay, so last episode, we talked about what that means to you. Today, we just want to talk about what are some of the common pitfalls we fall into. There's kind of two main ones that happen when we're giving feedback on our coworkers, managers, other people we work with. So we want to dig into those two things today. But before we dig in, two other things to keep in mind. First and foremost, if you have not worked with this person in a way that you can give feedback that's actually helpful with examples and credible, just say no. It's okay. You don't have to give feedback. You tell them, thanks. I would love to help however I can, but I don't have enough experience working with you to give valid, credible feedback. Remember, in feedback, we're looking for patterns for things they can do and examples to back it up. The second thing to keep in mind is be honest and tell the whole truth when we're giving feedback. Think of it like if someone has food in their teeth when you're talking to them. Maybe you don't want to say anything because you don't want to embarrass them or them to feel bad. At some point, they're going to realize they have food in their teeth and they're going to feel whatever it is they're going to feel. So you don't have to point out the obvious thing or tell them the thing, but you know what's actually really helpful? When you have something in your teeth and someone tells you. That's really helpful. It's the same thing with giving feedback. Sometimes we don't want to give it because we don't want to make them feel upset or feel like we're a jerk or nitpicky or whatever. It's okay, but we want to tell them the truth. It's actually much kinder to tell them so that they have something to go and work on. If they don't know, they can't grow. There's lots of feedback out there as well when you're giving feedback to make sure to give specific examples, which I'm all for. But I think the reason this is important because when you're giving the feedback, we want to look for patterns, but we want the truth to be based on data and not drama. So when I say we want to tell the truth, okay, we get that, but I think we want to tell the whole truth. This is what helps my brain remember this is just data and information, not drama. So as I'm giving the feedback, I might even caveat it with, hey, I know what I'm going to tell you, the feedback I'm going to give you might be hard to hear, but I also know you're really good and amazing and solving this thing is going to help you even more, right? We want to look at the whole truth. I'm worried this is going to come across as harsh or nitpicky, or you may just feel defensive and not hear this the first time, so you might need to read it a few times, but I also want to help you grow. Okay, so we want to tell the truth. We want to tell the whole truth. And if we don't have enough data to give feedback, just say so. Okay, so let's look at what are the two most common pitfalls we get into when providing feedback to other people. Things we hear over and over is, I usually don't have anything good to say about them, or I don't have any real substantial things for them to improve on. These are usually the two key areas your brain gets stuck in. So let's start with the first one, when you don't have anything nice to say about the person you're providing feedback. I mean, usually you can think of something, but I'm talking about you don't have anything of like substance to give feedback on them about. Quick interruption. If what you learn on this podcast is helpful, this is just the beginning. Your next step is to go and schedule a coffee chat, and we're going to dive into your specific situation. You'll leave knowing a few things you can try right away to get unstuck. And no, this is not a sales call. My goal is to help however I can. If I think coaching can help, I will tell you about it, but I'm currently on a wait list for new clients. Click the link in the show notes or go to lindsaylymancoaching.com/chat and get on my calendar. I only offer a few of these a week and it's first come, first serve. All right, back to the podcast. Okay, so remember, what are your weaknesses? Your weaknesses are simply your strengths overused. So if you're trying to provide feedback on someone and you're struggling to find what their strengths are, what's something good that they're doing that has some meat to it, look at their weaknesses, okay? Because their weaknesses are showing you what their strengths are. They're just using their strengths too much. They're over-indexing on it. Let me give you a couple examples of what this might look like. Maybe the person you're giving feedback on really is struggling because they're not great at little details. They get missed and they're making a lot of small mistakes along the way that's starting to really impact your ability to trust their work and for them to deliver at a high enough quality. Okay. Happens, right? Okay. Here's the thing. You know what that means they're really good at? Seeing the big picture and focusing on the big goals. Your strengths overused become your weaknesses. Here's another example. Maybe the person you're giving feedback about is missing a lot of deadlines and you have to remind them constantly and follow up and they're just not very proactive. All right. If that's their weakness, the strength might be that they're good at being creative and taking the time needed to do the work and not rushing through. That can be a very beneficial thing. Here's another example. Maybe where this person is struggling is that they lack strategic insight and seeing the big picture vision. All right. You know what they might be really good at? Seeing immediate needs and executing on them. Maybe this person isn't great at managing up. They give too many details. They're not able to articulate what they're trying to communicate. And they're always kind of sharing the wrong thing. They're oversharing or undersharing or escalating on the wrong things. All right. That's great feedback. They may need to hear that and might be something they want to work on in their career. You know what this might mean they're good at? Bringing people along and providing details to all the stakeholders. It means they know the ins and outs of their work. If they don't know all the details and the ins and outs and are thinking around corners and thinking about all the pieces of it, they're not oversharing. They don't have more to share. So if you're struggling to find something of substance to highlight what someone is doing well, write down the areas you see that they can continue to improve on. And I want you to look for how is that actually their strength overused. Second pitfall people struggle with as we're trying to provide feedback on each other is, what if you don't actually have any substantial thing for them to improve on? They're great. They're good at what they do. You just need more of them and to keep going and for them to get more opportunities. Okay. And it's the same thing. If their strengths overused or their weaknesses, identify what are their strengths and how are they over-indexing on them and possibly missing some growth opportunities. Remember, when we give feedback, HR and your leaders are always trying to remind you, this isn't like, what are you good at? What are you bad at? Right? It's like, what are you great at? And where are some areas for improvement? Areas for improvement sometimes means you're not good at it and you need to get better. Sometimes areas of improvement means you're good and there's even more ways you could be good. You just got to jump in and get uncomfortable to get there. Okay. So let's look at a couple examples. What do you do when someone's really great and you don't feel like you have substantial feedback on how they can improve? Identify their strengths, look for how they might be over-indexing on them and find ways to improve. Here's some examples. Maybe the person you're giving feedback on is really good at taking like high-level ambiguous asks and delivering against them. All right. Maybe what they need to work on is figuring out how do they get out of the space of the doer and influence others to start doing? How do they become a leader of leaders? That might be their next growth opportunity. Let's look at another example. Maybe this employee is really great at prioritizing the right things and making the right trade-offs on key deliverables to hit KPIs and deliver on time. Awesome. We want more of that. Maybe where the area of improvement for them is in finding ways they're making sure those lower priority things aren't forgotten and still get done so that they don't become an issue. Or maybe the area of opportunity for them is to teach other people their mental models so that they can do the same, right? They're not just doing all of it in a vacuum and going off of their gut. The growth opportunity might be, how do you teach other people how to do the same? Here's another example. Let's say this person you're providing feedback on is a manager, and they're really good at earning trust with their team, and they develop strong leaders, and they help them deliver against goals, and they're just amazing and self-sufficient. Awesome. You know where their growth opportunity might be? It might be time for them to push themselves and their team outside of their comfort zone and have some bigger, more challenging goals and be willing to fail at it. Maybe they're just holding back and playing safe. So remember, these aren't things that they're quote unquote bad at. They're just areas they could improve if they want. Remember, going back to last week's episode, we're going to get feedback about them. How they feel about what you're saying is what's important to them. You might say, hey, you're playing it safe. Go have some harder goals. Go challenge yourself. And they might have a response to it that's like, yeah, I get that, but no, I love the safe zone. That's where I'm staying. Awesome. There's nothing wrong with that. They're great employees. Their response is what's important. What we want to do is make sure that we're providing feedback for them that's actually helpful for them to continue to grow and develop, and is not just feedback of, you're great, keep it up, because that's not very helpful. So the biggest takeaway from this portion of the feedback is your strengths overused are your weaknesses. So if you're struggling to find the strengths or the weaknesses, identify the part that comes easy to you and look for how the opposite is also true of that person. I promise you it's there 100% of the time. All right, y'all. You got this. You're amazing. We'll talk soon. Hey, you didn't schedule a coffee chat yet. Remember, that's the next step. There's so much more I can help you with. You're going to leave this coffee chat knowing a few things you can try right now, depending on your specific situation. This is not a sales call. My goal is simply to help however I can. If I do think coaching can help, I can tell you about it, but I'm currently on a wait list for new clients. Click the link in the show notes or go to lindsaylymancoaching.com/chat to get on my calendar. I only offer a few coffee chats a week, and it's first come, first serve, so don't wait. Chat with you soon.